You're listening to a Mamma Mia podcast.
Mamma Mia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on.
Hello, Outlouders. It is Jessie here. In case you missed it, we are days away from finding out who will be the next president of the United States. And one of those candidates was incredibly overdue to spend a bit of time in our cancelled courtroom. It was just that it was going to take us a lot of preparation, and to be honest, we were putting it off. But my twin sister, Clare, and I decided a few weeks ago it was time. We were ready to do a cancelled episode focusing on Donald Trump. It is one of our most popular episodes ever, which is why we thought we would give you a little treat today and share it with you. And if you loved it and you want more, well, you know we couldn't fit all of it into one episode. So it's actually part one of a two-parter. Part two is waiting for you in the show notes. Enjoy. If that's the right term, just listen. Hello and welcome to Cancelled, the podcast that looks at silly celebrity crimes and assigns charges and sentences to them so we can all move on with our lives. I'm Clare Stevens.
And I am Jessie Stevens.
And today is part one of two episodes we're doing about reality star, businessman, former president, and current presidential candidate, Donald John Trump. We have wanted to do this series for a little while, and there was a moment where we went, the time has passed.
Yeah.
He's no longer in the zeitgeist. We went, everyone's forgotten, he's not really relevant anymore. And now...
And then Trump said, hold my MAGA hat. I have
Hold
returned.
it.
I have some things to say.
We're dying. We're dying. We need money. Thank you, darling. But Mr. Trump, you're not a nice person.
We don't need nice.
That's true. But actually, I am. I think I am a nice person.
Now, if you genuinely tried to do a cancelled episode about Mr. Donald, you'd be going for a decade. And that's the point. This man is so bizarre and silly and ridiculous that you forget. You forget all of it, so that if someone today were to stop you on the street and say, Jessie, why should Donald Trump not be president? You're like, I don't know where to start. You're like,
That's part of his genius.
It's like, make America great again?
Yeah. It's very hard to, I know bad because I kind of vaguely then go, The Apprentice, which isn't his greatest crime, but it's also not a crime.
No. And it's like he sexually assaulted everyone.
That was 10 lifetimes ago.
He did that for everyone. Obviously, there are his actual crimes. Just for example, in May this year,
Oh, I forgot.
a jury in New York found Trump guilty on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records related to a hush money payment to Stormy Daniels.
Imagine how many felony counts if silliness was also a crime.
And absurdity.
If he was in the cancel courtroom, which now he is.
Yeah.
Wow. Charge, sentence.
This made him the first former US president to be convicted of a crime. He has also been indicted on 54 other felony counts related to his mishandling of classified documents. That's a big thing. That, the documents you have on your president are quite private. And he did not
but that
treat
doesn't sound
them.
very interesting to me. It's to be completely honest, and I did follow this, there is a number of felony counts we get to where I check out. And I go, how much does a felony count even matter if we can get 54 of them?
Exactly. And it's like if Joe Biden or Kamala Harris was accused of one thing, I'd be like,
what? They're a criminal.
Yeah. He's accused of 54 on top of what he's already been found guilty of. And I'm like, it's a bit of a blur. He's also been indicted on felony counts related to his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Remember when he just threw his hands up and rejected democracy?
Yeah. People have to keep reminding everyone. It's like he's a threat to democracy, and everyone's like, you can't just accuse someone of being a threat to democracy. And he's like, no, he tried to say that votes don't count. And it's like, no, he did try and do that. That's actually true.
He didn't attend Biden's inauguration.
He incited a riot.
He incited a riot.
And he went very quiet about it.
He straight up was like, if I lose, doesn't count.
He said, if I lose, doesn't count, incited riot, and then said that was actually a lot like Martin Luther King. And it wasn't a lot like Martin Luther King.
Nothing.
It was the opposite.
Yes.
The people of January 6th were treated very unfairly. I was at the Washington Monument. I was at the whole thing. I had crowds. I don't know who's ever had a bigger crowd than I have, but I had it many times. The biggest crowd I've ever spoken, I've spoken to the biggest crowds. Nobody's spoken to crowds bigger than me. If you look at Martin Luther King, when he did his speech, his great speech, and you look at ours, same real estate, same everything, same number of people, if not, we had more. And you look at the picture of his crowd, my crowd, we actually had more people.
In civil proceedings, he's been found liable for sexual abuse and defamation in 2023, defamation in 2024, and financial fraud in 2024.
See, defamation means nothing. The man's walking around being potentially the next president of the United States. What does a defamation ruling even mean?
Why can you be currently in court and also a criminal and also be maybe going to be president?
It's like, what are you doing after court today? I'm going to my rally to become president.
Yeah.
And then it's like you're leaving your rally and everyone's like, oh, you need to leave early? And it's like, yeah, I got a court date.
I got to go to court.
It just doesn't seem right.
Before his career in politics, he and his businesses had been plaintiffs
You know what he
or
is?
defendants.
He's a slashy.
Yeah, he's a slashy.
He's always been the ultimate slashy.
Yeah.
Because he's been businessman, reality TV star. But felon as the additional slash for his, say, Truth Social account where you have to say who you are as a little bio, maybe even on his LinkedIn. Felon with a lot of little dot points. Quite nice.
Yes. So he and his businesses have been plaintiffs or defendants in more than 4,000 legal actions, including 6 business bankruptcies. He continues to say, I have never been bankrupt. He has never been bankrupt because his businesses have gone bankrupt. That's why you create a business, so that if you go bankrupt, it's the business that goes bankrupt, not you.
Not you. Can't say I understand. But, yep.
But we are not here to talk about actual crimes. No. We trust that the court of law will follow them up, look at the paperwork, and so on.
Do we? Because the court of law does do that, but then there is no consequence.
I think there are consequences. Just one of the consequences isn't anything to do with running for president.
Or going to jail.
No. We're here to talk about social crimes, cultural crimes, crimes against the vibe. They're the crimes we'll be looking at. Even still, you could look at those crimes forever. So this is not exhaustive.
Oh, how did you come up with your scope?
It is simply for the laughs.
Okay. You were guided by your nose.
I was guided by my nose is the only way to explain it.
Like any good judge.
Let us begin. Donald John Trump is 78 years old. He was elected the 45th President of the United States in 2016, and when he was inaugurated in 2017, he became the only US president without prior military or government experience. Absolutely none. Nada. Zero.
Unqualified.
He's also the only US president to have been impeached twice. In 2019 for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress after he pressured Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden. Just sounds so bizarre. And in 2021 for incitement of insurrection. He was born in New York and he went to a private school and then studied economics at the University of Pennsylvania. We don't know what he was like at school because in 2015, his lawyer threatened Trump's colleges, his high school, and the college board with legal action if they released his academic records.
That's not a good reflection on your academic record. People don't do that when it's high distinctions or A+.
Or fine.
During
the Vietnam War in the 60s, Trump avoided being drafted into the armed forces by saying he was at college and claiming to have bone spurs.
Bone spurs is what my good friend Nadal has in his knee.
Well, he's still...
And he is a professional. He plays elite tennis with his bone spurs.
Mm-hmm.
Where were Trump's bone spurs?
Unclear.
Okay, he didn't specify.
No. I'm all for people getting out of
Dad
military
has a bone
service.
spur in his neck.
In his neck, yes.
Oh, he'd never get out of military service.
But Dad's in his 60s. I'm all for people bludgeoning their way out of military service.
Oh, I respect it.
But I feel like if you are going to be the person to deploy the military as president,
oh, you got him.
That's
a real gotcha.
Be willing to serve in it. Do you not think?
Okay, here's the issue. It's not like he was a conscientious objector.
No.
He didn't go, I don't believe in combat. I don't believe in war. I'm actually going to protest against this. What he did is he lied about his bone spur, which I think that if you asked him a few questions about where and what, let's just say, has a bone spur come up since? And he does constantly claim to be in perfect health, and he's never brought up his bone spurs. So how's the spur going? Dad's in his neck, so maybe Trump has a very sore neck. Maybe it has limited his tennis career, although I think if he had a bone spur, would have limited his golf game.
Yeah.
And according to him,
it has not.
He has a great, great handicap.
I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way, and I do it.
But I guess him getting out of military service is probably the first example of what we'll see as a theme, him being a lazy boy.
Lazy
boy.
Welcome
Lazy
to the
Trump.
cancel courtroom, Trump. You are in good company.
Trump has been married 3 times and has 5 children. He spent most of his career as the president of his father's real estate business. He renamed it the Trump Organization and focused the company on building and renovating skyscrapers, hotels, casinos, and golf courses. He became famous in the entertainment world as an owner of the Miss Universe, Miss USA, and Miss Teen USA beauty pageants, then as creator and host of The Apprentice.
Which was a brilliant show. Is that still on?
It had like a different host. It's on in lots and lots of different countries, and there's like Celebrity
Brilliant,
Apprentice
brilliant
and all
show.
of that.
Like, I don't know if it was actually his brainchild.
Well, we'll get to
Oh,
that.
okay. But I loved The Apprentice.
Jessie, in part 1, we're going to discuss all the cooked things Trump did pre-presidency and during his election campaign. Then in part 2, next week, we're going to discuss all the things you forgot he did as president.
Oh, nice.
And they're really funny.
okay.
Some of them are
All
fun.
right. They're funny because he's not currently the president.
Yeah.
So it feels retrospective.
Yes. And there are like memes and stuff.
Yeah.
But then there's also like that time he just stopped the government from functioning. Remember the government just
that
stopped?
was so funny.
Like
yeah.
the lazy boy.
Lazy.
Boy.
My structure for today is as follows. Lying about his money, books and TV, Trump University, health beliefs, and politics and the campaign.
I vaguely know about some of these things.
Lying about his money. Trump likes to say that his career began with a small loan of just $1 million from his father. He says he had to pay that loan back with interest. But Trump was a millionaire by the time he was 8, and we know that he borrowed at least 60 million USD from his father, mostly failed to pay it back, and then got another 413 million USD from his father's company. A report in 2016 found that compared to the stock market and property in New York, Trump's investments underperformed. Essentially, you would have been better off just investing that money than Donald Trump having it and doing his business
If
ventures.
Donald Trump is Wall Street, he's 1929.
Yeah.
He's a Wall Street crash.
Yeah.
He's a Great Depression. He's a money pit.
In 2018, he and his family were reported to have committed tax fraud to avoid paying hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes on the real estate fortune that was passed down from their father. Trump's tax returns from 1985 to 1994 show net losses totaling $1.17 billion. The losses were higher than those of almost every other American taxpayer.
Actually amazing.
Actually, that's a lot of money to lose, but none of that matters. What matters is that according to journalist Jonathan Greenberg, Donald Trump called him in 1984, pretending to be a fictional person from the Trump Organization called John Barron. This Mr. John falsely claimed that Donald Trump owned more than 90% of his father's business in order to try to get him a higher ranking on the Forbes 400 list of wealthy Americans.
That's so embarrassing.
Greenberg then found that Forbes vastly overestimated Trump's wealth and wrongly included him on 3 of the different lists.
So like on rich lists.
Yes.
Because they had testimony from some man named John Barron saying Donald Trump is actually
No.
Okay.
Okay. Trump makes that call. Everyone knows it's Trump.
Okay.
No
How do
one
they know
pays
it's
any
Trump? Because it's
attention.
just Trump's voice.
Hello, it's me, Trump.
Yeah.
Okay.
And John Barron, his middle name's John. It's a whole thing.
He didn't even get creative.
He didn't even try. But just
It's
as
John
a side,
Trump. Donald Trump. Damn it. No. is so rich. Put that in your article. Taps.
Go on.
Go on. Write it. How much money does he have? 1 billion of them.
$100 billion.
Trump,
Is this you, Donald Trump?
get
Yes.
back
Yes.
to work and stop calling. Okay?
I have more phone calls to make. The next call is to Wikipedia.
Moving on to books and TV. Donald Trump, I'm going to try and do a Donald Trump voice.
Okay.
Donald Trump has written many, many books. It's hard to say how many, but it's 19.
Wow, he's prolific.
Yeah.
He's like Alexander Hamilton.
Hamilton wrote the other 51.
His first book, The Art of the Deal, was a New York Times bestseller. While Trump was credited as co-author, the entire book was written by Tony Schwartz. According to The New Yorker, the book made Trump famous as an emblem of the successful tycoon. One, lazy boy Trump, you didn't write your own book.
Lazy.
Boy.
Two, Tony Schwartz really wants that book kind of labeled as fiction. He's campaigned for that, yeah. During his presidential campaign announcement in 2015, Trump said, "We need a leader that wrote The Art of the Deal." And it's like, okay, where's Tony? The Art of the Deal explains the power of psychology and deception, which Trump calls bravado or truthful hyperbole. That's what he says made him successful in real estate. He talks about things like having a construction crew drive machinery back and forth on a site so that the visiting board of directors thinks that the work is further along than it is.
Is that fraud?
And he instructed a supervisor, if necessary, have the bulldozers dig up dirt on one side of the site and dump it on the other.
You're a weasel.
You're a little manipulative weasel. He offers business advice such as, the best way to ask for a raise is to wait for the right time. Do you find that helpful?
When's the right time?
He says, I guess you'll know.
I don't think Trump likes it when people ask him for a raise. And
No.
I don't think he asked for a raise. I think that his dad just gives him $60 million on a Monday.
Yes. He also says people should always be encouraged to follow their dreams, but realize that a lot of time and money can be wasted chasing dreams that just weren't meant to be true. If you're my kids, for example, you can chase your dreams.
Like Ivanka.
If you're one of my employees and you want to chase your dreams, maybe get back into your box. Then, Jessie, speaking of business endeavours, there's The Apprentice. Trump co-produced and hosted The Apprentice for 14 seasons. It was incredible. Just over 20 years ago, the first episode aired. It was called Meet the Billionaire, and it attracted 18 million viewers. 28 million watched the season finale. It won an Emmy. Trump became internationally famous for his catchphrase, "You're fired."
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
And it elevated him to someone who came across as really common sense and authoritative and fair. You got to admit, we watched it as kids. We would sit there in front of the TV drinking Milo and we would just say, "You're fired, you're fired, you're fired."
We would. And remember the opening credits. Money, 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 money. We'd walk around the house singing money, money, money. And Mum and Dad would be like, "We don't get the message of this show." And we're like, "Money." And we're walking down the streets of New York just throwing Monopoly money around. And we're like, "I want to be in the boardroom. Yeah. What do you want to sell?" "I don't know."
"I don't know, but you're fired." And we would do a lot of that. Now, according to one of the producers on the show, people working on it had to sign expansive non-disclosure agreements that promised a fine of $5 million and jail time if they shared what happened. Jessie, the original idea was to have a new billionaire each season.
Oh, not
it
just
wasn't
Trump.
that Trump would just be
Was
the
he
guy.
a certified billionaire? Because it sounds like
This is the thing. Let's not pretend we understand money. Because this is what I don't understand. It's always like, I went bankrupt and now I'm buying a jet.
And then it's like Kylie Jenner's a billionaire. Okay, in my mind, if Kylie Jenner is a billionaire, if I were to say to her right now, let's go to Combank, you go to an ATM and you can be like, "What's in my account?" What comes up is 1 and maybe 7 zeros.
Couldn't tell you.
9 zeros. More zeros than I've ever seen.
Yes.
And I go, boom, you're a billionaire. If it's $1 less,
You're
She's not a billionaire. But in my mind, you got to be able to withdraw that cash now.
And from Combank.
And from Combank specifically.
Yes.
I don't understand stocks. I don't understand shares. I don't understand equity or assets.
I don't understand business.
I don't understand lip kits.
No.
I certainly don't understand Trump Towers.
No.
So in my mind, if they're selling him as a billionaire,
Mm.
he has, I think it's technically referred to as liquid.
Yeah.
Liquid funds.
He's got to have some liquid.
Yeah, it's just sitting there.
Now, this information that I'm about to share about The Apprentice comes from a producer who wrote this huge expose. So apparently they tried to get several different people for the first season, and Trump was the only one who said yes. Pretty much that whole season.
Who else do you think they tried to get?
Oh, they were
like
all
Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos. This is it. Billionaires are busy. Billionaires are some of the busiest.
And Trump was the only one who was like, let me look at my calendar. I am absolutely free.
Did you want to film in March, April, May? Just let me check. I am free in June and July, and I've got an opening in August, September, October, and then I am on break November, December, Jan. So I'm probably pretty open. And by that, I mean I work 2 hours a week. So that's when I might film. But it's like any billionaire you can think of. It's like Elon Musk. Like they generally
Have things to do.
have what I would call a packed day job.
Yeah. Not Trump. Now, pretty much that entire first season was scripted. And this producer writes about how you couldn't let Trump just go because he got confused by the names of people, by what he was meant to do. Apparently, in the first thing where they're in the boardroom, he's really unclear. And everyone leaves being like, wait, is somebody fired? Like, what's the deal? And then Trump mumbled yeah, I would have fired that person. And the producer had to be like, I think you should point at them and say, you're fired
for clarity.
Yeah. And then
clarity.
And then Trump did that. And then
It was
years
very
later,
like Mark Holden.
yes,
It's a touchdown. It was very that.
Yes. Well, Trump years later then tried to trademark "you're fired." And it was unsuccessful because he didn't come up with it.
No, it's said all the time in workplaces around the world.
Yeah. But also he didn't even come up with it
Which
on the
is
spot.
similarly, this seems to be a billionaire trend, if you will. Kylie tried to trademark Kylie.
Mm.
This is a thing.
Stop trying to trademark things. And
You've
just
already
get
got $1
on
billion.
with it.
Why do you need more funds?
Rise and shine.
Apparently there are behind
If
the
anyone
scenes,
needs to trademark things,
it's poor people.
it's us.
Yes. We should trademark cancelled, except we can't because there's another cancelled
Yes.
podcast more successful than ours.
I know, we probably should have trademarked cancelled.
We could use some business advice from Trump. Apparently there are behind-the-scenes tapes full of blatant racism, misogyny, just disgusting behaviour from The Apprentice. And there's always been talks about whether they will come out because they're really, really bad. Another big part of Trump's entertainment career was his ownership of the Miss Universe organisation. From 1996 to 2015, he co-owned the Miss Universe organisation, which also included the Miss USA and Miss Teen USA pageants. When he first bought it, he publicly ridiculed a 19-year-old Miss Universe winner for putting on 5 kilograms. On camera, he said,
Alicia is like me and like a lot of other people. I love to eat. We all love to eat. Not all of us. Some of you are lucky, but we eat. We like to eat. And she had tremendous pressure put on her with the win and everything else. Plus, she was going from country to country, all foreign places. And there was a huge amount of pressure. And some people, when they have pressure, don't eat. And some people, when they have pressure, eat too much, like me, but like Alicia.
when he got called out for that got resurfaced during his
He was
20s.
just trying to build rapport with Alicia.
Yeah, he's like, we're the same.
No, we're not the same.
When he got called out for that during his 2016 presidential campaign, he said she had gained a massive amount of weight and it was a real problem.
Did you say 5 pounds?
Kilos, 5
5
kilos.
kilos, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
He also falsely tweeted that she was involved in a sex tape.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't a thing. In 2013, he brought the competition to Russia. He tweeted, "Do you think Putin will be going to the Miss Universe pageant? If so, will he become my new best friend?" During his political career, he referenced this event in Russia. He told Fox News, "I know Russia well. I had a major event in Russia a few years ago, which was a big, big, incredible event. Sir, it was Miss Universe."
Do you think it's lucrative? Because I'm thinking about what I would spend my money on if I was a billionaire. And in terms of what I would invest in, what I would buy, Miss Universe seems like a bit of a sinking ship.
Yeah, no, it was.
Okay.
It was. Like over the time he had it, it lost its value.
I also think that it's quite a time investment because it takes a lot of, like, he was often just there with his arms around women. But again, he was free.
Yeah, I don't get how it like grows in value.
No, what do they call it when something is scalable?
Yeah, it's not.
So you have a scalable product.
Well, I guess you could just make more and more pageants, but I think what he wasn't counting on was that women are busy. So I think he was like, we just need all women to be in pageants.
No, but this is something I've often said about people who don't have a lot on. They can't comprehend that other people have a full week. They're the type of people who, I have a friend, love him, but he will call me at midday on a Tuesday because he doesn't have a lot on. That's Trump.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, why wouldn't women be in Miss Universe pageants? Well, you know, they're working full time now.
Yeah. Or they've got families.
They've got things on during the week. What type of things?
Okay, Trump, this is the problem.
This is why you need a day job.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing Apprentice. Well, that only shot for 2 months. And now you've got a big 10-month free calendar again. And that's why you're organising a holiday to Russia.
He was asked whether he met with Putin when he was in Russia, and he just said, I got to meet a lot of people. And he said, and you know what? They want to be friendly with the United States. Wouldn't it be nice if we actually got along with somebody? And to that I say, sir, the Cold War. You need to be more aware of history.
Yeah. I don't think he has much context for that. Like, I don't think he understood. He was like, what's everyone's problem with Russia anyway? And look, I don't have a problem with, like, Russians.
No.
But I think that probably in the last, say, 2-3 years, Russia has done some questionable things, such as the invasion of Ukraine. And someone ought to tell Trump.
Yes.
Or else he's going to stage another Miss Universe there with his friend Putin. I think he thinks Putin is his first name.
I agree. And there has been tensions between the US and Russia for decades now. Quite profound, Quite profound. Speaking of media, during a March 2006 appearance on The View with his daughter Ivanka, Donald Trump was asked how he would react if Playboy would ever feature Ivanka's picture on its cover.
Weird question.
And he said,
weird question.
I don't think she'd do that inside the magazine.
Although she does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know.
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird. Stop it. You know what? You are sick.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
No, how
Well, you're
terrible.
known for saying
Is that
outrageous
terrible?
things, Mr. Trump.
Mate, that's a really odd thing to say.
I think sometimes he does say something really weird. I don't know if he's aware that it's weird after it comes out of his mouth. Like, do you think that as he said it, he went,
No, I think
I don't think I nailed that. I don't think that's how it was meant to go.
Came out weird. Trump University. Trump University was a real estate training program that ran from 2005 to 2010.
Was it a pyramid scheme? Because that sounds like a pyramid scheme. Is that just like an MLM pyramid scheme situation?
How dare you call it a pyramid scheme?
It just sounds pyramidy.
It's a bait and switch scheme.
Oh.
It's different.
It is more clearly fraudulent.
It is also fraudulent and incredibly misleading. It didn't do what it said it was going to do.
Okay, all right.
So it was operated by the Trump Organization. And in 2011, after multiple investigations, it stopped its operations. Now, it was founded in 2004 by Donald Trump, and it offered courses in real estate, asset management, entrepreneurship, and wealth creation. Number one problem with Trump University was not a university by any definition of the word university.
Could you get like a diploma or a degree or
not
a master's?
In any.
Or...
It was not an accredited university or college. It conducted 3- and 5-day seminars, often called retreats, and it used high-pressure tactics to sell them to its customers.
So it was just a business.
Yes. It didn't offer college credit. It didn't grant degrees or grade its students. It has since been called a massive scam. Trump University was also the subject of 2 class action lawsuits, and they centered around the fact that the university defrauded its students by using misleading marketing practices and engaging in really aggressive sales tactics. Trump claimed that students gave the courses 98% were favourable reviews. But when investigations spoke to former students, it turned out that employees of the university, which wasn't a university, pressured students to give favourable reviews and then told them they had to fill out those forms to get their graduation certificates.
See, that's one of the tricks they teach at Trump University.
Yeah.
It's called How to Be a Trickster.
Yes.
And number one is don't
Fraud.
give them their fake degree until they've said you're good at it.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly.
The
Trump
old bait and
University,
switch.
It
Yeah.
was just practicing what it was preaching.
You know what it's like? It's not quite like this because it's more intense, but it's like when you get out of an Uber and the Uber driver gives you a really deep stare and says, please give me 5 stars. Where were we the other night? That's right. And someone said their Uber driver cancelled.
Yeah.
Your Uber driver cancelled and then called you and threatened you and said you need to cancel on me because I've been downgraded because of how often I cancel.
Yeah.
And it's like that sounds like a whole lot of your problem. That's very Trump University.
It is a you
He went to Trump University and he was like, what I'm going to do is threaten you into not only saying you cancelled, but also giving me a 5-star review.
Yeah. Instruction for the Trump University program usually began with an introductory seminar in a rented space, like a hotel ballroom. And at that seminar, students were urged to sign up for additional classes. And they range from $1,495 seminars to $35,000 Gold Elite programs. Many students paid those fees for lessons from experts who were kind of marketed to be handpicked by Donald Trump. So he really used his whole apprentice persona
To be like, you're going to hear from Richard Branson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Trump himself appeared in adverts boasting that the customers or clients would make $1 million in a year. Many never made any profits and struggled because they were in debt after maxing out their credit cards because they were sold to relentlessly to take these courses that weren't even actually anything to do with the university.
Did they consider, and this might be on them, but did they consider starting by getting a $1 million loan from their dad?
Actually, great point, because $35,000 for a program isn't that much when you've got your meal.
No, you've still got $900,000 at least. You do.
Yeah. And so I think you've got
Barely a dent.
Yeah, you got a good point. What's the problem? So, Jess, in the end, after all the investigations and everyone went to court, Trump University ended up paying $25 million, which was 90% of the costs that they had made from that entire operation.
They still made money.
That's what I also don't understand about rich people.
I know, it's always like they've embezzled $10 million and it's like, I'm going to fine you 1.8. And I'm like, I feel like this is a net positive.
I'm like, should I be embezzling? Jessie, health beliefs. Trump says he has never consumed alcohol, smoked cigarettes.
I'm actually quite impressed by this
Yeah.
fact when it comes to Trump. The man just likes a Diet Coke. And I'm
Yeah.
like, look, we actually have a lot in common.
Although,
Is it Diet Coke or is it a full-strength Coke? I feel like that says a lot about a person.
yeah, he has
But
a
he
lot
loves
of
a soft drink.
Yeah. So he also says he's never used drugs. This is because he witnessed his brother Fred struggle with alcoholism and later die from it, which is very sad. He sleeps about 4 or 5 hours a night.
I
which
think that's not true.
isn't enough.
I don't think that's the truth. I think he read Kevin Rudd's autobiography.
Yeah.
Where Kevin Rudd famously slept 4 to 5 hours a night, which made everyone think that he worked really hard with the rest of the hours, whereas I think you just spend 4 hours being shitty because you've not had enough sleep.
Yeah.
But the man, he's not got a busy schedule.
No. He can sleep plenty.
Maybe he has 4 or 5 hours at night and then he has sort of his 9 a.m. nap, similar to Luna. Luna does like a sort of a 10 to 12.
Yeah.
And then she does 3 to 4.
Actually,
I think that
great
Trump's
point.
having those.
I think he naps like a toddler during the
Yeah.
day.
You put him in his sleep sack. You put on his white noise. You put a little dum-dum in. And he has his naps. Helps with his moods.
Give him just some more milk in a bottle.
I did read that when he was in court, he couldn't bring in his food and drink, which are similar to any toddler. You need your backpack that has your
The snacks.
Yeah, the snacks. It might be fruit, it might be rice cakes,
Some
it
apple
might be
juice.
some apple juice. But for Trump, it's his 12 Diet Cokes, which help keep him awake, alert and with it. And he couldn't have them, and so he was sinking into his naps. Probably his scheduled naps, and this court case is getting in the way of how his day would normally look. It's very difficult to stay awake while being prosecuted.
I bet he just threw something at the judge like it was a television. And he's like, I'm bored.
I also think that for most people, the act of sitting in a courtroom on your own trial would be enough adrenaline to keep you awake. But for Trump, he's like, no, I'm really going to need those 12 Diet Cokes.
He's like, this is the biggest work day I've ever had. Is sitting in this room. Do people do this every day? Sit in a room?
Wait, you mean I turn up today and tomorrow?
And maybe even the next day?
In the morning?
This is punishment enough without the sentence. Jessie, he has called golfing his primary form of exercise, but usually does not walk the course.
Okay, we need to discuss this because we used to work at a golf course.
Yeah.
And men thought that they were so special to go and do their 18 holes. I have nothing against golf. Nothing against golf. If you're in a cart and you start drinking Heineken at 7 a.m, it's not exercise, mate. It's not. You're just driving around drunk
and then swinging a stick.
Swinging a stick.
Which
badly.
Which I will say might be great for the social life. Might be great for your well-being.
Yeah.
Is it exercise?
Absolutely
not. Really.
Not. The exercise part's meant to be the walking up and down the fairway.
And you just know he sits in the clubhouse afterwards and has eight Diet Cokes because he's had 4 on the course, but he's has the rest
got to get his 12 in.
Yeah.
And it used to be my job to be on the drinks cart, and I would come along with some snacks and some drinks, and I know I'd stop and I'd go Trump because everyone on the golf course looked exactly like Trump.
Yeah.
There was a man who wore suspenders. I feel like Trump could wear suspenders while he's playing golf. Donald, do you want anything from the drinks cart? Yes. And then he says something like, lovely lady, and taps me on the and then he looks through and he opens up the one side that has sandwiches and he slams that because he's pissed off about the sandwiches and the salads. And he goes to the other side
where there's chocolates and chips.
And there's chips.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'll be having some of these. And he takes it out from the handful. You know someone's rich when they go, I'm just going to get, and they take out 6 chocolate bars and chips. And you're like, whoa, just checking it is $9.15. That's really aggressive. And I know you had a bacon and egg roll at the halfway house.
I saw you.
And then open the other thing. He doesn't drink, but he does want a morning decoke, as they call it.
Yeah.
And he'd grab one of those. I think he'd grab a few light bottles because drink light water.
Yeah.
For hydration. I'm thirsty this morning.
Absolutely. Jess, Donald Trump considers exercise a waste of energy because he believes the body is like a battery with a finite amount of energy, which is depleted.
I really respect
by
theory. I think he's onto something.
In a book called Trump Revealed, 2 Washington Post journalists write more about this battery theory of exercise. They write,
I can't talk about battery theory as though this is a legitimate theory. You can't just as a person not want to exercise and start saying I'm built like a battery. But even batteries are recharged.
After college, after Trump mostly gave up his personal athletic interests, he came to view time spent playing sports as time wasted. Trump believed the body is like a battery with a finite amount of energy, which exercise only depleted. So he didn't work out. When he learned that John O'Donnell, one of his top casino executives, was training for an Ironman triathlon, he admonished him, "You are going to die young because of this." Then in 2015, there was a New York Times profile where Trump said he was not following any special diet or exercise regimen for his political campaign. All my friends who work out all the time, they're going for knee replacements, hip replacements. They're a disaster, he said.
Well said. I'm just in my golf cart.
He exerts himself fully by standing in front of an audience for an hour. That's exercise.
But it's not technically.
It's not, though. In 2015, his campaign released a letter from his longtime personal physician, Harold Bornstein, stating that Trump would be the healthiest individual ever elected to the presidency.
Is Harry Bornstein the same as John, who called that paper to say that
he was pretty sure Donald Trump was a billionaire?
No, because Bornstein is real, because then 3 years later in 2018, he said Trump had dictated the contents of the letter and that 3 of Trump's agents had seized his medical records in a February 2017 raid on the doctor's office. In 2016, while campaigning, Trump said, I actually have low blood pressure. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? I have
ultimate flex.
I have 100 over something. The doctor said, man, you have the blood pressure of a great, great athlete who is 20 years old. 110. I like that because I like being a great athlete. Can you call yourself a great athlete when you have a theory of exercise that involves not exercising?
Because you don't want to run out your battery.
Politics and the campaign. Donald Trump registered as a Republican in 1987. Then in 1999, he became a member of the Independence Party, which is a New York State affiliate of the Reform Party. In 2001, he was a Democrat.
Oh.
Then a Republican in 2009. Then he was unaffiliated in 2011 and a Republican in 2012. In 1988, Trump contacted someone in politics asking to be considered as Republican nominee George H.W. Bush's running mate. Bush found the request strange and unbelievable. He actually ran in the California and Michigan primaries for nomination as the Reform Party candidate for the 2000 presidential election, but withdrew from the race. In 2011, he considered running against Barack Obama. Then he announced he would not run. His presidential ambitions were, and I quote, generally not taken seriously at the time.
Oh, that's so sad.
Then he runs in 2016. And Jessie, I just want to chat about a couple of the things we've definitely forgotten about the campaign. And I'm not going to list them all because it was a shambles.
Okay.
It was a shambles. From 2015, he talked about building the Great Wall on the southern border with Mexico and getting Mexico to pay for it.
Yeah.
I would build a great wall, and nobody builds walls better than me, believe me.
Jessie, why would Mexico pay for it?
Well, you go to Mexico. I mean, he's one of the great negotiators. You've seen him on The Apprentice. He would knock on Mexico and he would say, hey, we want to lock you out. And they'd say, why? And he'd say, well, because you're all, I think he's called them all rapists and murderers. Yeah, I don't think he's ever met a Mexican person before, but he's like, because you're all criminals. And it's like, okay, all right, we won't come. And we would like to build a wall. Whoa, that feels aggressive. That feels very the Berlin Wall. He says, what's a Berlin Wall? And then they say, it feels very Northern Ireland. They have a big, and he says, what's a Northern Ireland?
Yes.
And he's confused. It's hard because there's so many context.
Yeah. And he says, as I see it, there's an immigration issue. And that will be solved by a wall.
A wall.
And then somebody says, what about planes? And he says, Pause. He says the wall will be high enough to keep the planes out.
Oh, wow, true. And then as he's walking away, he says, you're paying for it.
And they say, what?
You're paying for it. It's very like your neighbor coming over with an annoying request and then saying, like, we're building a new fence.
Yeah.
And also we want to go halves. And it's like,
but I don't want the fence.
But I don't want the fence. I don't have the money.
I don't want that. That always confused me. Like, yes, absolutely bizarre to suggest a wall, which he called the Great Wall, which it's like Great Wall of China, but that's nothing to do with immigration. Like, he's just so confused. The fact he wanted them to pay for it.
Yeah, I don't know how he was planning on sort of invoicing for that.
Mexico.
Just to their email.
Yeah.
On a Monday. He wouldn't have done it, but it's like to Mexico from Donald. For $8 billion. Line item. One time. Great Wall. Who's building it?
We'll get to the wall.
Okay.
Well, actually, I can't remember if I've got this in my notes. Oh, no, I do in the next part, which is about what he did during his presidency.
Who was meant to build it?
Oh, so he started building.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But it only got built like a tiny bit. And then he ran out of time. Oh, okay. Well, he got distracted.
Okay. This is a dumb question, but like, how big a wall are we talking? Because it sounded like
He imagined it to be like building a pool fence.
Yes. Yes.
Like, you know what we should do? We should build a fence.
Yeah.
For safety or whatever. And you're like, yeah, great. Well, we can do that in a week. And, you know, it always blows out a bit. Or it took 3 weeks. How
That's actually an art of the deal. He talks about overestimating the time of a project.
how long would this wall have been?
So the wall was going to have to be 3,145 kilometres. Now, you can't picture that. I can't picture that.
No,
For
I can't.
context.
Yeah.
The length of Australia from the north, like
Far North Queensland.
far north,
Yeah.
to the south tip of Tasmania
Uh-huh.
is 3,860 kilometres.
So we're actually not far off that.
So essentially, this wall would have been somewhere in the ballpark of the entire length of Australia.
it's a big project.
It's a big project.
For a man with not a big attention span. And also it would have to be 30,000 feet tall at least. 40,000 feet tall. Because he doesn't want the planes coming in and out.
Exactly. And then you got to figure out the invoicing.
Yes.
A logistical nightmare.
How do you invoice the people on the other side of the wall?
After you
Think about it.
Oh, no. I got it. There's a letterbox.
There is a letterbox?
Yeah.
Okay, so you just... That's
Maybe
when
a few.
Okay, so you've got a letterbox.
But what if the people start trying to climb through the letterbox?
No. I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking you put your invoice through, which is like monogrammed and stuff. And you're like, Donald, 1 times wall, $3 billion. You put it through. What if they just ignore it? What then?
Then you say, you knock on the wall.
And then you give them a notice.
Yeah.
And you say, no,
Come
it's
on.
overdue, your invoice.
Then you say,
What's the plan?
You threaten, well, we'll tear it down. We'll tear it down. If you don't pay for it, we'll tear it down. And they're like, please do. We didn't want the wall.
Like, I don't know how you...
It's a really bad plan. And no one called it out enough. There's so many other things going on.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Speaking of other things, the grab 'em by the pussy footage.
I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Whatever you want. Grab them by the pussy.
That was effed. So that Access Hollywood tape that was from 11 years earlier, it came out and then it was all about the locker room talk and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's disgusting. It's appalling. Grab 'em by the pussy doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't.
You can't grab someone by the pussy.
Anymore.
No.
Then you can grab them...
You can grab someone.
Grab them by the mouth.
Like, it's not something you do.
Grab them by... See, even an ear has more bits.
And, okay, here's the other thing. So it was 11 years earlier and he was on the set for...
See, maybe this is why he couldn't go rogue on The Apprentice. Because his insults don't make sense.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. And I imagine that there was a whole lot of stuff like that said behind the scenes of The Apprentice that all those tapes have. Just, this was 11 years earlier. He was in business mogul era. Why was he on set of Days of Our Lives?
Oh, that's actually the question, isn't it?
Yeah, because that's where it was filmed. Jess, why?
That is the behaviour of an unemployed man. That is the behaviour of a man
Bragging.
with, and I'm, again, nothing to do at midday on a Tuesday.
Bragging
and that's
to an
when we get in
acquaintance.
trouble.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what it's like when we are underemployed. And
we're
things
wandering.
don't go well. I'll tell you what, we drink too much Diet Coke underemployed. Which is, we're wandering. Often we're wandering into watching Days of Our Lives at home.
Yes. But he's like,
And you know when you're watching TV and the sun's out?
and you're like, oh,
and
this
you
doesn't
watch
feel good for the
when
soul.
We were at school and you'd go, Dr. Phil, Oprah, Ready, Steady, Cook. I want to cry because it was such a depressing evolution into the afternoon.
It was. It was. Jessie, I forgot about when Melania gave a speech that was nearly identical to Michelle Obama's. So remember, Melania did next to nothing. And I mean, we could do a whole episode on Melania and fake Melania, et cetera, et cetera. But she then did give a speech in 2016 and literally there were entire chunks
I love it.
that were identical to Michelle Obama's.
Okay, I would never say this about a woman, but is Melania, hear me out, ChatGPT? Is Melania
Yes.
just AI?
Absolutely.
And so they programmed into her,
Mm-hmm.
make presidential wife speech. And she was like, absolutely. I'm going to draw on the wealth of information that precedes me. I've accidentally spat out Michelle Obama's
Yes.
speech, but you can't blame me because I am bot. I am bot and I did as bot. Jessie, remember when people got mad about Trump and all his problematic behaviour? So he tweeted this. So many politically correct fools in our country. We have to all get back to work and stop wasting time and energy on nonsense.
Jess.
This was August 8, 2015.
Jessie.
At 10:30. Go to bed.
Who needs to stop wasting time? Who needs to stop wasting time? And is it you, mate?
Yeah.
Because people are simply saying the presidential candidate is cooked. And you are saying, oh, all this political correctness. It's political correctness gone
We all
mad.
have to just get back to work. Here's a question, Donald Trump. Before you were the president, what was your job? What was your job on your LinkedIn? Come on. Other than tycoon, which is not a job.
Trump said things like this, and you referenced this just earlier, Jessie.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
He calls people
couched
from
it.
Mexico.
He couched it. Yeah.
But he did call them rapists.
Yeah.
So then he tweeted this to kind of make up for it. Do you think it made up for it, yes or no?
Okay. Happy, #Cinco de Mayo. The best taco bowls are made in Trump Tower Grill. I love Hispanics. Wow.
Jessie, describe the picture.
Okay, he's looking really stoked to be eating a taco bowl. He's got like a real dollop of sour cream. Love some sour cream. There's some cheese sprinkled, and he is holding his thumb up, and he's just saying, I like Mexican food. Made by white people,
I
sure.
like Mexican food. I'm going to build a wall, but you can
to
still
keep
make
you
your
out, but you
food.
can leave your food. But
Oh,
if you want any rights, no. But that doesn't mean
I won't eat your food.
I don't like a taco. I'm not racist. I like a taco.
Donald Trump also, he didn't understand what he was doing at any point. He did something really bizarre when he said he hoped Russia could find Hillary Clinton's deleted emails. He said, I will tell you this, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. It drew criticism because
He was inviting Russia to hack them.
he was very much inviting Russia to hack Hillary Clinton.
His friend Pootie.
His friend Pootie. He's like, hey, Poot, we hung out
You're misunderstood.
at Miss Universe. Can you help? She's annoying me.
Come on, Pootie.
Pootie. Clinton campaign advisor Jake Sullivan said, this has to be the first time that a major presidential candidate has actively encouraged a foreign power to conduct espionage against his political opponent.
Trump just takes a bow. No, honey, that wasn't a compliment.
Wasn't a compliment. Jessie,
Yeah.
that is all we've got time for in part one. And in part two, we're going to go through all the things that you forgot he did during his presidency. And it's going to be a sad time.
And that is when we will do our charges and sentences.
Correct.
But Claire, speaking of lazy boys, I have a lazy girl story to round out today's show, to leave our listeners with. This one is from Gemma. And she hasn't even said I have a lazy girl story. She's just written lazy girl, one word, just as like context. I work in a hospital, and before I started this job, I needed to check on all my vaccinations. I knew I had about 8 different vaccinations a few years ago, but being a lazy girl, I didn't take note of which ones or file any of the documents after I needed them.
And where is that information stored?
Yeah.
Because I never know.
So instead of trying to find out what I'd already had, I just told my doctor I didn't have any of them. And I got all of them again.
I've done that.
P.S. I do not condone this. It's so true. I would love to know where my vaccination things, because a doctor, this is what happens. You sit down with your doctor. Your doctor goes, have you had, what's the, I got bitten by a dog one? Typhoid.
Tetanus.
Tetanus.
Yeah.
Have you had your tetanus? And I look at my doctor and I go, have I had my tetanus?
And they say, the problem with you is that you go to lots of different doctors. I'm not your only doctor.
And I say, I thought you had a record.
Yeah.
Because I never opted out. And I never opted in. There has to be a record somewhere.
Yeah.
Jab me. But if not, feel free to jab. Better to not err on the side of caution.
Yeah, and to be over-jabbed than under-jabbed,
as they say.
She's a health professional. She says not a good idea.
Yeah.
But lazy girl.
Lazy, lazy girl. We will be back next week. Bye. Bye.